Thanks for joining us on Safe ETD. Today we're pleased to be joined by Florida former Governor Jeb Bush. Governor Bush, thanks for joining us today.
Joy to be with you, Justin.
You recently wrote an op-ed article in the Wall Street Journal that talked about your prescription for America's economy. Why did you decide to write that, and what is your prescription for America's economy?
Well, I'm concerned that we are focused so exclusively on these huge deficits and debt that one of the main means by which we get out of the mess is to grow. And if we don't grow our economy, then there's no amount of cutting that will solve this problem. So I think as a party, we should be offering solutions that creates sustained economic growth over the long haul, that creates jobs for people to be able to make decisions for themselves rather than have the anxiety of being dependent upon government. And that means a dramatic change in policy. I mean, the president's vulnerable not because of his intentions, but because he hasn't delivered on economic policy. It means simplification of our tax code, a rewrite of regulation to bring it into the 21st century so there's greater certainty. I think it means a domestic energy policy that's based on our resources rather than spending money for people that either hate us or are unstable and will soon hate us if we don't change our ways. It means training people for the next generation of jobs, not focused on the old ones, but the ones that will be in the forefront now and in the next 10 years. So this should be a time of a renaissance in policymaking, and I hope that conservatives lead the cause. That's why I wrote it.
You have stated a number of occasions that you're not going to be running for president, and you're also not going to be on Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
Are those still true?
Yeah, thank God for all the people that watch Dancing with the Stars. I can honestly say I will not be a candidate even if I'm asked.
There are a number of presidential candidates that are going to be coming to Florida very soon.
Yep.
There's a debate that's going to be taking place in Florida in September, and there's also a Presidency 5. What are you looking for in a presidential candidate to lead the Republican candidate to victory in 2012? What are you looking for?
I'm looking for a candidate that gets beyond attacking the president. I mean, that's low-hanging fruit. The president's policies have failed, and sometimes I think we overdo the attacks that almost become personal, and I think the focus ought to be on offering compelling alternatives. So I want a truth teller, and I want someone who's going to have the courage of their convictions to advocate bolder policy, to make this election about big things rather than small things. And I think the other element of this is that they have to have the character to withstand what will be enormous attacks. This is going to be a really ugly general election, and we want a nominee that's hopeful and optimistic, but also has a titanium spine, if you will, to be able to withstand the attacks. And finally, someone who's not just a good talker, but has a record of accomplishment as well.
Do you think that there are candidates in the field right now that meet those qualifications?
Absolutely. I think we have a great field of candidates. Some are doing better than others because of the kind of the ebb and flow of the moment, but over the long haul, this is a crazy process, but it does seem to bring out the best in candidates, and they meet the challenge. And so my guess is we'll have 2 or 3 candidates that could beat the president and will be very viable next year. The president's going to have a tough time with the failed economic policies for sure.
Do you see yourself at some point potentially endorsing a particular candidate?
I could. I'm not sure it matters. I don't know if endorsements matter, but this is a hugely important election. So a guy like Rick Perry, who I think has a great record of accomplishment in Texas, Mitt Romney, who has a record of accomplishment in the private sector certainly, and was a good governor as well. John Huntsman. I mean, these are candidates that have a lot to offer, and my guess is that I'm probably just, given the nature of how important this is, I might get involved. But any of these candidates could beat the president if they run the right kind of campaign.
You've been involved in Florida politics since 1980 when your father was on the presidential ticket as the vice president, 1984, 1988 when your dad ran for president, 1992, your father, and then again your brother ran for president. You've run 3 statewide campaigns here in Florida, so I count up about 9 campaigns since 1980 that you've been involved with at the highest levels. What advice would you give a Republican candidate, presidential candidate, when they come to Florida campaigning looking to win Florida?
Well, Florida is a microcosm of the country, so there's a lot that's directly related to when you campaign all across the country, but also we have some unique features to our state. We're an incredibly diverse state, so you can't really narrow cast your message to one group. It has to be a bigger, broader message, I think. Secondly, there's some unique issues in Florida. We have, down in South Florida, we have 1 foot firmly planted in the United States of America and 1 foot planted in the Americas. So having some sensitivity and understanding of the connectivity of Florida and the region in which we operate, I think would be important. We have some unique environmental issues that I think are important to be sensitive. This is an incredible ecosystem, and Republicans don't normally talk about conservation and the environment, but I think it plays well down here to do that. And of course, education is a huge issue for people that are aspiring to a better life. Just saying you're against Washington is not going to cut it in my mind. I want someone who really understands that education is not a federal policy, but it should be something of national purpose. So education's always been important in Florida for some reason, and I'm happy it has, because we've seen great gains, but there's a lot more that needs to get done.
Governor Bush, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Justin.